left in the playoffs. NBA teams were 1,609 and 0. It's now N1. We'll talk about the most damning stat of the night. 1 minute and 35 seconds at the check-in table. That's the second most damning stat of the night. And now the third. 1-13 in their last 14 closeout games. Woo! The Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll just discuss it all around the horn.
That Maple Leaf stat is damning.
It's a once in every 1,610 game comeback for the Indiana Pacers to win and advance. And the celebration was on. And that celebration led to this with Giannis and John Halliburton. We'll get to that. But on Milwaukee's collapse and on Halliburton's blow-by, Tyrese, of course, not John, blow-by on Giannis Antetokounmpo to win it all. David Dennis Jr., what did we just witness?
We just witnessed what is quite literally a once-in-a-lifetime meltdown from that Milwaukee Bucks team. And we could talk about some of the things that happened, the calamities, the ball goes through the legs, some mishaps there. But let's not forget, they were up 4 points with 40 seconds left in regulation before even going to overtime. So in the last 75 seconds, with overtime and the fourth quarter combined, they were in an 0-12 run against that Pacers team. Like, I want to look on the bright side and talk about Halliburton and the, tremendous clutch performance by them. But this is all about Milwaukee, the meltdown. And really what's sad about this the most is that this is probably Giannis' last time in a Bucks jersey. And we're seeing him on the wrong end of a terrible loss.
Jay, I know you've covered a lot of playoff basketball, maybe not 1,610 games, but what did we witness last night?
Well, something that you just cannot have, and that you go up by 7 with 40 seconds left, and then you don't get another shot or free throw attempt up until the last second heave after you're now down by 1. We also saw, for all the speculation about the short-term and long-term implications for Giannis here, and whether or not the Milwaukee Bucks are the place for him to pursue his championship, he still had the game in his hands somewhat defensively. The night before, we saw Draymond Green get that critical defensive stop. Who else would you rather have guarding someone in the entire league almost than Giannis there? And he let Tyrese Halliburton get by him and get to the basket. So this is not an overall collapse. I think you do have to look at Giannis's role in this right at the end.
Mina Kimes, is your takeaway?
Oh, man. With 7, when they were up by 7, just to take you into my headspace, I was thinking about coming on this show today and I was going to talk about Gary Trent Jr. because up to that point, he was fantastic. He was like in a flow state in overtime, hitting 4 threes. He had 5 steals over the course. I did post about it. All-time announcers jinx there because, boy, did he go from a GOAT to GOAT real quickly. And it was such a shame because, as we've been talking about, it does feel like an indictment on this Bucks team, even if Giannis wasn't perfect at the very end there. And it is a lot more about the Bucks team than what the Pacers did. As good as Halliburton was, I thought Nembhard in particular made some really impressive plays down the stretch. To me, this was about the Bucks choke.
Kevin Clark, takeaway for you.
One of the best lines I've ever heard about modern media was from Adrian Wojnarowski, who said that the insider game in the NBA was just waiting around for the next guy to get ticked off. Then he's springing into action because he wants a trade and all the machinations that go along with this. I wonder if Giannis is the next guy to get ticked off. He has a $62 million option in 2027. First of all, same. But then beyond that, we just have to look at what this roster is. I don't see with the cap, with Damian Lillard's injury, much of a path forward.
I hear you. But can we just do this for 1 second? And David, I'm going to mute you as well because you went to this. What's going to happen in Giannis' summertime? Can we just live in a moment where we're not talking about where somebody's going to go and talk about what just happened? Please. They had a collapse in the end of the game. Discuss that. The Indiana Pacers. Maybe somebody can bring up Tyrese Halliburton and the Pacers. Go ahead, Kevin Clark.
No, I just want to say that Giannis had 30 points last night. He keeps doing that. He's averaging 30 points in his last 10 playoff games. Well, guess what? The Bucks are 1-9 in those games. That, to me, is the stat for the Bucks. It's not about the Pacers. If you were over in history in these scenarios, it is about the choker, not the chokey.
David Dennis Jr., last word here.
Let's first not forget that also we haven't mentioned that Doc Rivers is on that sideline. He's on the sideline again for another playoff collapse. But the Indiana Pacers, yes, this could be the type of clutch performance that can help guide them against a overwhelming Cleveland Cavaliers team. This team is growing up and maturing as they did what began last season.
Giannis and John Halliburton. The news today that everybody talked it out, and it's all good. That Tyrese Halliburton said, my pops was not in the right, and I had to have a talk with him. Wow. And that real time, nobody knew what was up as it was spiraling out of control. So, Jay, same question I asked you before. What did we witness here?
Something almost unprecedented, too. First, Tyrese Halliburton jumping on the scorer's table, that's something you should do maybe after you win a conference finals. It's a little early to be jumping on scorer's tables in the first round. But the dad, what should the punishment be? I think we should, in the words of Marcellus Wallace, your sideline privileges are revoked, right? You can't sit courtside anymore. You've lost your privileges, right? You have to move up. I mean, think about what would happen with a fan. Think about the interactions that Russell Westbrook has had where, he's had people kicked out. And, this was a little more egregious. Those that were with Westbrook, where you're crossing lines that shouldn't be crossed. But still, it's wholly inappropriate to get yourself involved. There's a 10-minute cool-down period before the media talks to players after game. You should at least take that in consideration. When this highly emotional moment, their season just ended, you should not be getting in players' faces. I don't care what your son.
Mina Kimes?
Yeah, look, everybody involved here has been, I think, said the right things afterwards. I mean, Giannis himself, I thought, was unbelievable after the game, talking about it and talking about humility and everything that happened. Tyrese said his dad was in the wrong. His dad apologized. But Jay is right. There has to be some sort of punishment. But I'll say this. There's no punishment worse than I imagine what that dad feels today, because his son just had this unbelievable, best performance of his career. Maybe it wasn't worth getting on the scores table, Jay, but it was still incredible. And then for him to sully it that way at the end and be the talking point, that's got to feel absolutely awful.
Ruined the moment, I think, was the expression used. In another instance this week, and that was kind of the feeling I had. Kevin Clark, around the horn of you?
To piggyback off of JA's idea, if there's a 10-minute cool-down period for media, maybe there should be a 10-minute period where parents can't confront players, and then after 10 minutes we give them a free shot or two. We'll look into that. But for me, I'm thinking about this is almost like the bizarro version of the Jack Solberg story, right? Where public shaming is going to do most of the work here. He's going to feel bad about this. We're going to say it's a loser move, and then we can move on. Let's get John Halliburton into a nice suite where he can't confront any players in the next round, and this will all
David
work
Dennis
itself.
Jr.
Yeah, I know he feels terrible now, and he should. He made everybody's experience worse. Tyrese Halliburton had a game-winning shot to clinch a series. That is a once-in-a-career type of thing, and he made that worse. And Giannis was sitting there contemplating his future, thinking about this collapse, and you go right in his face, and you do that instead of going over and hanging out with your kid who just had this incredible moment. It was just bad judgment at the worst time, and yeah, he can't really be on that sideline.
Well, no one knew exactly. I mean, you heard Giannis say he didn't know if that was a fan or if that was, and then he found out it's Tyrese's dad, and then he's processing it all. You could see it all play out in real time, and it just, again, took the moment away from everybody. We've been horned. We'll move on. Pistons 106, Knicks 106. Tibbs deserved, David.
He deserves a ton of heat here. I felt like I was watching, Home Alone, watching the McAllisters leave the house and screaming like, Kevin's still at home, everybody. It's like he forgot that Jalen Brunson was on the bench when that Jalen Brunson being in the game in the fourth quarter is the pivotal reason why the Knicks are up 3-1 or were up 3-1 in the first place. He's been outperforming everybody in that fourth quarter, double digits. As the Detroit Pistons have collapsed, you have to call a timeout. You have to figure out how to get him in the game, because Jalen Brunson being in the game in the fourth quarter is way more valuable than any timeout.
Than any timeouts, because it would have been their last timeout if they had called it with 2 minutes left, 1 minute left. The other option is fouling and stopping the play and having the bonus. Adonde, how would you have played this?
Yeah, I wouldn't have gotten the free throws too. There's a great irony here in that one of the complaints about the NBA is that it can take a half hour to play the last 2 minutes because all the stoppage to play.
Yeah,
and this time
last time for the Knicks.
Flying by when the players can't get in. But it also speaks to how things tend to even out, right? The Knicks benefited from not having the whistle blow at the end of Game 4. This time it cost them not having a whistle blow. So things have even out over the course.
But you didn't answer my question, Jay. What's the play there for Thibodeau? I see you're muted, Jay. Jay, what is it, your first show? You're muted. Unmuted now. Answer the question. Thibodeau, is that a timeout play? Is that a foul play where you foul somebody?
I'm not putting this on Thibodeau because watch how the game plays out. Watch how things were playing out. Jalen Brunson had missed his last 3 shots prior to that. Campaign actually got a good shot, an open look. The hero of game 1 got you a good look. Mikal Bridges, who hit a big shot in that fourth quarter, had a look. You had good shots even without those guys in there. So no, you don't want to give away points with the foul. You don't want to use up your last time out.
Mina, do you agree with Adonde and Thibodeau in theory that they played it the right way?
Well, first, I think we do have to acknowledge the irony of Coach Thibodeau being criticized for not playing guys for once in his career.
That too.
I'm in agreement with Jay here. I think with that amount of time left, it did make sense to preserve the timeout. And then we should also note, by the way, Jalen Brunson was terrible in this game. I know he's been clutch in the fourth quarter throughout the playoffs, but he was 4 for 16 from the field. And a lot of that, I think, and to spin it to the other direction, had to do with the fantastic defense of the Detroit Pistons. I thought both Cunningham and Thompson were spectacular in this game. This was not like we were in the first example of a team choking. I think Detroit won.
Okay, but you're saying Brunson had a bad 3.5 quarters. The clutch player of the year in the NBA should not have been on the court for the final 2 minutes of the game, which Kevin Clark, I'll go around the horn to you. Should the Knicks have fouled? Should they have called a timeout, or should they have rid it like they did?
They probably, looking back on it, probably should have called a timeout. Just figured out how to get their most important people on the court. Like, that's what this is. It's a personnel matchup-based league, and they needed to figure that out. I don't know how you do it. Tibbs knows more than me. Just get it done. But for me, this game was about the Pistons. This game was about Cade Cunningham, who becomes the 3rd player ever to average 25, 8, and 8 in his first 5 playoff games. The others were Luka and Oscar Robertson. That's what you need to know about the kind of rarefied air that he's in. So again, Nico Harrison stay out of Detroit. But for me, when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at as Jalen Brunson was held 2 of 9 on field goals when Thompson and Cunningham were his primary defender. I just don't think this was a great Brunson night. I don't know how much he would have done late there. And so this is about the Pistons.
That's the last word there. Yesterday, the mute buttons were not working. I was muting panelists, and this time it worked at Adonde. This is what, show 2,000 for you, Jay? And you didn't know? When you're muted, you can't talk through a mute, Jay. Try it. Look at this. We'll be back. Buyers till next. Show only because what we talked about earlier was so bad, but the Toronto Maple Leafs 1-13 in their last 14 closeout games. You know they can't win a cup. Okay, they can't close out series. Ghosts and demons for this franchise. Series goes back to Ottawa, but before we get there, Mina, buy or sell the Leafs feeling the ghosts of playoffs past?
I'm buying it. That number speaks for itself. I saw a Maple Leafs player had a quote that said, "We're 3-2. We'll be fine." Or 3-2, pardon me. We'll probably be fine. Somewhere like a monkey's paw curled as soon as he said that. It's insane. And it's also, by the way, concerning because they are going to Ottawa, where the Senators have been fantastic. 27-11-3 in the regular season. They have been struggling on power plays. I am very nervous, officially on choke.
Donde.
The problem is for the Maple Leafs, the more history you evoke, the worse it gets for them. For example, the last time they were shut out at home with a chance to clinch the series was in 1950. They went on to lose that series. And if they lose again and goes to Game 7, well, they've lost their last 6 Game 7s going back to 2013.
Somebody was reading Caroline's research packet. If you're telling me 1950, a game that they were shut out in, I don't know. Go ahead, David Dennis Jr.
I mean, yes, they have an uphill battle in Ottawa, but that may be better than being at home. Don't ask the players if they're nervous. Listen to that crowd. Have you ever heard of a crowd boo a home team that is up 3-1 in a playoff series? There is a lot of nerves in that crowd. Both of these games, 6 and 7, are going to feel more like road nervous games.
Somebody talk to me. Get on ice here. Tell me about Austin Matthews, how they're not even able to score. Give me something, Kevin Clark. Love the series.
First of all, David Dennis, the problem with your road game theory is that they're staying in Ottawa, which is going to have tons of Maple Leafs fans, which Maple Leafs players don't want to see right now. So for me, I want to start here as the only panelist who saw Pearl Jam in the Senators arena. So I'm an expert in Ottawa. I would say this is going to be a really uphill battle for the Maple Leafs. I mean, they've lost all the history we talked about. They had lost their last 4 game 5s when they were up 3-1. That just seems impossible. I don't believe in curses and ghosts and all that stuff, but I do believe in the pressure of playing in Toronto. This team has not been built to thrive in that environment. I don't know what it is. I am worried about this series for them.
0-3 in power plays last night, 0-7 in the last power play. Somebody give me something from the series, though. Let's move on. Nuggets 131, Clippers 115. The result yesterday's panel got completely wrong, but I will spare you their mutes. Wire-to-wire win for Denver. The Jamal Murray podium game, 43. Maybe some ghosts and demons for Clippers playoff history. J.A., what just happened with Denver's win?
Well, the math is catching up with the Clippers, right? When you lose 2 games that you should have or could have won, now that means you basically have to beat the Nuggets 6 times, and you have to allow for something like this to happen. Jamal Murray going off, Russell Westbrook going off. And so now all the variables have come into play. Also, late series James Harden variables coming into play as well.
David Dennis Jr.
Yeah, this is the Jamal Murray that raises the ceiling of the Nuggets. This is why you sign a guy like this who has as many 40-point games in the playoffs as he does throughout his career in the regular season. This guy shows up for these moments, and as J.A. said, if you're a Clippers fan, you got to be nervous. 11 points from James Harden. We have a beardening potential happening at the end of this series, as we've seen over the last 2 years.
Beardening? Is that what we're calling it? Kevin Clark.
Yeah, this was Joker's second worst field goal shooting performance of his playoff career, and it didn't matter. That should scare the entire Western Conference. This is almost the anti-Milwaukee Bucks, where everything is built around Jokic, and it works. Aaron Gordon, they are 8-1 now in the playoffs when Gordon scores over 20 points, as he did last night. We already mentioned Jamal Murray. This is a well-oiled machine. I love this Nuggets team.
Mina Kimes.
Yeah, for the first time in a while, it felt like you were watching that championship-winning Nuggets team. When Jokic doesn't have his best game, 13 points, he still got a triple-double because Jokic. Jamal Murray picks up the slack, contributing on 55%, by the way, of the Nuggets' points in terms of scoring or assisting in the second half. He was excellent.
Murray. Prison. All right. David Dennis Jr., Kevin Clark, thank you for your time today. Mina Kimes, Jay Adane.
What's your favorite team? Comment below, and if you like the video, please leave a like. This really helps the channel grow and brings you even more content. Oh, and if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button and activate the bell to receive all notifications. With each game, we notice that the NBA is getting more competitive every day, and all the teams are looking for reinforcements to win the championship. And only here can you follow your favorite team daily with incredible content from different sources. Here on the channel, there are new videos every day with analysis, curiosities, and the best moments in basketball. That's it for today, folks. Thanks for following along. The NBA doesn't stop, and neither do we. Until the next video. NBA, the passion that connects us.